Earlier this year, we found out that Lewis Hamilton would be making a surprise move to Ferrari to join Charles Leclerc for the 2025 season. But that leaves us with a burning question. Who is going to be taking that seat in Mercedes for 2025? Welcome everybody to Across the Line. Joining me today, once again, is the wonderful Zach.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about some of the drivers that we think are the most likely candidates to replace Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. And starting things off with the obvious driver, Carlos Sainz. What do we think? Is that a good deal for Mercedes to snatch him off Ferrari?
Yeah, I think the Carlos Sainz one possibly for me makes the most sense. Reason being, he's too good to not be in F1 next season. And since Seidel went to, is heading Audi, there was a lot of talk at that time that Sainz was going to go across to Audi with the previous McLaren connection. Mm-hmm. They're obviously coming in for 2026. Lewis is leaving in 25. Could Mercedes take someone like Carlos Sainz on a short term, on a 1-year deal? Will you take that? Would that suit both parties? Maybe it allows Mercedes a bit more time to get that long-term driver. I think it could benefit both.
It's a really awkward time of it because we've got the 2026 rules, new regulations coming in there. I think it's the most realistic sort of driver that they could really snatch and put in there to literally just fill some time whilst Carlos mainly waits for that seat.
He's too good to not be in F1 next season.
He's too good to go in a kick Sauber. I mean, they were back of the grid at Jeddah. That's going to kill the guy, considering he was the only race winner last year to beat the Red Bulls. And speaking of the Red Bulls, there has been some drama over the last few weeks, maybe months at this point. Max Verstappen, Red Bull, the supposed match made in heaven, seems to be breaking down, or at least behind the scenes. So, could Max go to Mercedes?
My honest answer, no. My content answer, maybe. I don't think it would be a good thing for his career. I think right now, you with how far Red Bull are ahead, you expect that no one's going to catch him. Next year, they might close it. I think Red Bull will still be the top team next year. This could be 4 world championships, tying Seb. He could set a Red Bull record next year by being the biggest winner in their history. And that would put him on 5. That's 2 off the record. Mercedes have not sorted their shit out since last year. Mm-hmm. And for him to take that gamble and risk and move over there, he doesn't beat a lesser driver in a Red Bull at this moment in time.
You've hit the nail on the head there. It's the fact that why would he go from P1s, P2s to maybe a P5? Like, what is there to gain for him? Like, I know Max has said numerous times he doesn't necessarily care about the stats in F1. He just enjoys racing. But surely deep down, if you didn't care, you'd race for any team. But he's doing good. He's racing for a winning team. And to sort of throw that away, it's different to that of what Schumacher did going to Ferrari and building up that team. Likewise for sort of Lewis going to Mercedes. They saw what foundations were being put in place to build up these teams. Max, I don't think has really looked elsewhere from anywhere other than Red Bull because that team's been so solid for the last few years. So these rumors are bonkers. I will not believe any of it until I see an official statement from him.
It has to be a major falling out. It has to be. If he's going to go away from Red Bull, it's because something has gone on at Red Bull and the opposite party has not gone. And my thought on all of this is, Max has fallen out with Christian, or Max is annoyed or disappointed by the potential of Helmut Marko leaving the team. So Max will leave. Whereas my thought with that is Red Bull will value Max more than they would the catalyst Christian. Yeah. So I think that this is the only thing. And originally, I thought there was no real jeopardy of Christian going until there was a risk of Max going. I think that a team would favor Christian over Max at this moment in time, he's worth more.
Something's bubbling away at that team. It's an entirely different video or podcast topic altogether, all this drama. And who knows, maybe in a few weeks' time, if Christian leaves or if more developments happen, that's something that we can delve into. But for the time being, I don't see Max jumping ship at all in any way, shape or form. Moving on to another driver that I think could be a potential candidate for that Mercedes seat next year is Alexander Albon, who I think at the moment is driving incredibly well at Williams, and I would like to see him back in a top or at least a podium contending team.
The few things with Albon: one, he deserves to be a better team. He deserves to be at a better team. He's proven that he can get the most out of a car.
Yeah.
There was obviously, he was probably elevated to that Red Bull seat a little bit too early because of the whole, they wanted to get Gasly out, they demoted Gasly, they brought Albon up probably before he was ready to take that position on.
It was in his first season, half a season into F1, and you're into Red Bull.
He's matured a lot, and he's proven he is a top driver. Williams are a Mercedes junior team to an extent. They're a customer team, but there has always been that strong relationship between Williams and Mercedes. In fact, the last three Mercedes drivers have come from Williams, or the last three of Lewis's teammates, let's say.
Yeah.
And then finally, he has a good relationship with George. He's come up the ranks with George. They are good friends. So that could potentially be sort of a good match. I really like Albon. I think this one is unrealistic. I just don't think they will. I don't think it's the exciting option. But I think Albon is a really, really good driver and deserves to be at a top team.
Yes. No, I agree with you 100%. Everything that you've said there. He's a solid driver. I think ever since that pressure of not being teammates with Max, he's sort of become more... he was always chilled. I don't want to say he's become more chilled, but I think he's really taken that leadership role at Williams well, and he's doing good. He's doing bits right now, and I would really like to see him in a podium-winning car, or winning car in general. You never know what the Mercedes could be like. Another potential driver that could take the Mercedes seat, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah. Yeah, just for the anarchy that it would bring.
Yes.
Yeah, and the way he forced his way out of Alpine and into that Aston seat, if he then abandoned the next project with Aston and jumped to the Mercedes seat. Yeah, and there's just something so poetic about him taking Lewis's iconic seat.
Yeah, I completely get that. Again, his dedication to Aston, I wouldn't say it's as strong as how Max is dedicated to Red Bull. Max has been with Red Bull now for many years. This is only Alonso's second season for Aston. He's been known to jump ship a few times, but he has come out and sort of said, I'm dedicated to this team. I am devoted to staying at this team. But the chaos.
So Alonso, though, if any driver was going to do it, it's Alonso. And let's not forget, he's still a phenomenal driver. He's still an incredible driver.
100%. He's performing as good as I can recall him ever driving. I could see him at Mercedes. I could see Fernando Alonso at Mercedes.
He's done all the other top teams.
Yeah. So that's sort of all the main drivers on the grid at the moment. The only other driver of interest, I think, to Mercedes at the moment is their F2 junior driver, Kimi Antonelli. Now, he has skipped Formula 3 and he's gone straight into F2. He's still learning, he's still adapting, and I think to jump into F1 would be a big jump for him.
Yeah, this is where the Sainz move might come into play, because I do recall Toto saying, in the same way that they missed out on Max in the past as a young driver because they weren't able to take that shot that Red Bull had the opportunity to do with owning a junior team. Well, I say junior team, Toro Rosso. But Mercedes couldn't take that shot, and they missed out on arguably one of the best drivers in the history of the sport. So I've heard Toto sort of echo those worries of we can't let that happen again and lose another potential Max Verstappen.
Well, this is the thing. Because the rules and regs are changing in 2026, part of me thinks a rookie would have less of a disadvantage joining that season, because It's not going to level the playing field entirely because there will have been drivers who have been in this sport now for Fernando's sake, 2 decades. But you will have this somewhat of a level playing field. There's this new kid that's going into these new cars, which will be new for every driver there.
But if they don't take that shot and he starts to pick up in F2 this season and he starts to look like a wonder child, if they don't take that opportunity, they potentially run the risk of someone else then poaching him.
So those are all what I would consider to be somewhat, arguably, realistic predictions. I do want to throw a wild card out there. Hear me out.
I was gonna say, can we get our wild cards in? Can we get our crazy picks?
They're a German team, is Mercedes, and one driver that I think retired from the sport too soon was Sebastian Vettel. I'd love to see him come back, and I think Mercedes would be a great place for him. Just for a year, just for 2025. Just come back, have another possible shot at getting on the podium, because had Sebastian not retired, bear in mind, he would have had that seat that Alonso had, and he could have been fighting for those podiums as well. And maybe that could have reignited the spark that Sebastian once had for this sport. I would love to see him come back. Is it unrealistic? Probably, yes. Do I want to see it? Oh my God, 100%.
See, I think I'd actually put that above the chance of Max going. You've got as you say, the German connection. I think he gets on well with Toto.
He's a big name as well, mind. He's still a big name.
And I know Mercedes don't need to market, but he is a marketable driver as well. And he's a good driver. He's a fantastic driver. So yeah, he's also very knowledgeable. If they're thinking George isn't quite matured enough,
he could always take some info from Seb.
Seb is a leader. He would, arm around, and I'm sure he'd teach George a lot. I think Leclerc benefited from driving with Vettel. But no, I'd love to see Seb back. Seb was one of my favourite drivers before retirement. And some of that is his personality and what he does off the field. But no, he's a phenomenal driver, and I'd love to see him back in the sport.
So there we go. Those are our names that we are suggesting that could potentially take the seat in 2025. But Zach, for 100 points in I'm doing my politician point, for 100 points in our fantasy championship that we are doing this year, who's going to take that seat? And if you get it right, I will give you 100 points in our championship.
See, there's no obvious option. That's
no,
the thing
and I love that.
So...
I love this. Hamilton going to Ferrari has caused just dominoes to start falling, and I love that.
Mick Schumacher. No, I'll go with Carlos. I'll go with Carlos.
Carlos, you're going to go with Carlos. For the sake of content, I will say Alonso. So there we go, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed our predictions for who we think is going to take that seat in 2025. So once again, ring the bell, and we will see you guys in the next video or the next podcast. Whatever, however you consume your video or media content. I need to end this now. I'm talking for too long. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.